Welcome in to the big show, or I guess you'd call it a little show, or a little weekly updates here on the Hoops Boys podcast, getting you through the 2022 NBA playoffs. As always, your host with the most, my partner, James the Jet. I, of course, America's favorite bitch-ass white boy, CProc, and one half of our guest panel this week, the Shadow X taking the night off. Greggers joins us to shed some light on these series. So you guys, we certainly spent a lot of time this season making Chad wear egg on his face over constantly calling the Lakers his champions for a while. But you guys gave another team some love going into the playoffs, and not only are they not going to be hosting the trophy, they didn't even win a game, and they're the first team to pack their bags to Mexico. So the Brooklyn Nets, fresh off being eliminated this evening. Gentlemen, who wants to sit in the corner of shame first?
I'm
gonna blame James anyway, since he picked them. So I'll just blame James. But James, if you want to start, feel free.
We'll have to run the tape back to see who picked them first last episode.
I'll start it off. I cannot lie. Like, I was completely surprised by this series. I did not see this going this way at all. Kevin Durant looked like a totally different player. I don't think he's seen this amount of consistent defense maybe ever in his career. Kyrie, did the normal Kyrie thing. He disappeared some games, scoring 10 points when they really needed him. And I don't know. Overall, I feel like the Nets were outcoached. Their size really showed in this series. They were getting out-rebounded. It felt like every time the Celtics missed, they got the offensive board and got another chance to put it back in the hoop. A lot of ISO, but I don't know. It was bad overall. I did not see this coming at all. I thought Brooklyn would get out of here. Maybe ended in 6 or something like that. I didn't even see them getting on the other end of the brooms. Right.
Donut.
Greg, what you got? What you think?
As I said, I'm blaming you because I think I heard you say it first months back. So I'll start with that. No, but outside of that, shocking in the way it happened. So I would say that. So going in, I maintained last year the same thing we said. Durant's foot was an inch away from being behind the 3-point line. They go to the finals, probably win it. They had Kyrie healthy this time around. We knew coming in Boston was the hottest team. We alluded to the fact that their point differential was the best in the entire Eastern Conference. Amazing considering they're 500 to basically the end of January. So we knew this is going to be a battle. But I thought with Robert Williams not being healthy, he missed the first 2 games for Boston. Just everything. You just thought Brooklyn would prevail at the end. I thought it would be a really good series. But I think the Celtics have arrived. I think Tatum, I don't want to pound as much on the Nets as, looks like they are a totally cohesive unit right now. Their superstars, Tatum and Brown, are playing like it. They're getting contributions 8-9 deep. Grant Williams played an excellent series in this.
Yes,
their size, their length, their depth, it got to the Nets. Something James pointed to, Durant definitely did not have his best series. Played an excellent game 4. He definitely saw consistent defense. And the Celtics basically pretty much made it known that, like, Bruce Brown who had a good series for the Nets, they were going to let him shoot. They were clear about it, and they did. So, I mean, there's so many possessions I saw Durant come off a ball where a second defender was coming. And that's not to discredit. I mean, Tatum, Brown, they did excellent jobs individually defensively, and Marcus Smart. But they were flat out the better team. I thought the Nets blew games 1 and 2, and Kyrie, gosh, he's hard to. It almost felt like he checked out a little bit in game 3. It wasn't horrible game 4, but I almost feel like once they went down 2 games, he kind of, I don't know. It didn't seem like he brought the same intensity. But overall, I mean, I think I have to give credit to Celtics. The way they played this series, shocking that they swept number one. But I do honestly, like, I can admit after watching the series, they were the better team. So kudos to them. I think they outcoached, they outplayed, and again, the defensive intensity alone was incredible, and that's only part of the pie when you have superstars, which they have, who seem to be taking the next step. So big egg on the face for, I guess, James, myself, and the Nets, but credit to the Celtics. They were awesome. Coaching, outcoached, outplayed, out everything.
And going back to Durant for a minute, it takes you kind of back to that old Detroit Pistons title team where they said, we're going to let Shaq and Kobe do their thing and just shut down everyone else. We'll try our best to make life miserable for them, but nobody else. The rest of you guys, you go ahead and try and beat us. And if you can't, you can. And sure enough, they didn't. And sure enough, the rest of the Nets could not pick it up in Durant's stead.
Yeah, and listen, Durant, the turnovers, especially for first three games, he had way too many turnovers, no doubt about it. I did feel watching it, though, I don't think Nash and the coaching staff did him any favors either. He almost felt like so many possessions. He's basically the point guard. They're throwing double teams. They're picking up in the backcourt. That's not. I mean, Durant's incredible, but that's not the ideal position you want Durant being in. If you get him in the right sets, you get him the ball at the spots you want. Again, not making excuses for him because it was his best, but I don't think the coaching staff did him any favors, and the lack of support from the rest of the cast. I think the Celtics did an excellent job and said, you know what, we're going to make life as miserable as possible for him. And they were right. I mean, that was, I think, the one way. Even Kyrie blew up game one, incredible game one. The Celtics still pulled that out. I'm with them where if I was going to game plan that, like, make Durant's life miserable. We'll live with Kyrie's points. And I thought it was a great job. Defensively, game planning, defense, everything.
And while we're on the Celtics, I just want to not put it all the onus on the Brooklyn Nets as like they just did bad. That's the only reason that they lost. But the Celtics really, I feel like in the beginning of the season they were kind of like a fringe team. Like we didn't know what they were, and then something sparked right after the All-Star break, and they just went on a tear. And now in the playoffs, in the first series, they get a sweep on a team that has Kyrie and KD. I don't know, their ability to switch everything. They've got Daniel Tice back. He's a big proponent that Grant Williams able to guard multiple positions. They have a lot of players on their team that could guard multiple positions. I always forget this dude's name. That was on the Spurs that they traded for.
Oh, Derek White.
Derek White, great addition. And they look like they're rolling. They look, unstoppable at this point, especially like defeating a giant like the Brooklyn Nets. Even though they weren't right the whole season, even though like they have Ben Simmons who haven't even suited up for them, it's still like better's if I'm a bad man, I'm going with the Brooklyn Nets just because of the talent. But that Celtics team is better, and they showed it in this series.
No doubt. So talking about them too, because it's not fair to just because if we harken back, it took an awesome comeback by the Celtics, literally a last second bucket by Tatum to win game one. The Nets had a game, as much as it was a sweep, it's not like the Nets got blasted all these games. The Nets easily could have come out of Boston up 2-0. Yes. But I think that points to the maturity of the Celtics. I think this has the makings in my eyes of this team is really figuring it out. And even within this series, that confidence grew, where now you might be looking at the team who's taking that next step now. It seemed like their confidence grew throughout the series. They realized they could take a hit. They could take a monster game from even Kyrie. And, someone who they brought back, Al Horford, was huge in the series. A huge factor in this series, so you have Al, who's the consummate team guy, can shoot the three, is technically he is a big, caused immense problems for the Nets. They top to bottom, they were awesome. I mean, that's really the only way to put it. They were awesome. Anytime they faced the question, they came back. They answered the bell every single time. More credit to them. And one other factor too is that Ben Simmons, he played as many minutes as I did in this series, and that didn't help.
Yeah,
That didn't help.
definitely didn't help.
So, you can question. Sure, he had injuries, but it again today turned into he was supposed to be back for game 4. Now it was a combination of physical, not over mental issues. Who knows? I'm not going to. It's not right of me to say what the deal is, but it wasn't a good look. Him being on the sidelines, almost like it's Hollywood in these Supreme outfits every night. And it's like, there's other guys in the league who've played hurt that doing it this year. Even in this playoff series, Robert Williams was nowhere near completely healthy, limited minutes. But again, it's not only is it a factor on the court, it's an emotional lift. It's we're all in this together type of act.
Yeah.
So yeah, big question marks for the Nets. For the Nets, this is probably not going to go over well.
And we spoke on it before, it's Boston's defense on not only Durant, well, it was exceptional. Like Jaylen Brown gets into it, and Tyus is a body that bangs people up. The Williams boys are brutal. Jaylen Brown's, of course, shut down defender. Tatum's even dug in a little bit more than normal.
Significantly, he has.
Yeah. So
significantly.
And like Durant, it was kind of a all hands on deck, everybody kind of take a turn thing. But I mean, they all just really dug in on everybody, and it's completely.
And again, the Nets had weakness inside, and the Nets pounded them. I mean, it seemed like the Celtics got to the glass at will time after time. They really did. And if Williams is back in the fold for the Celtics, which you assume he's played now, that his probably minutes will increase. I think it's a big factor. They get a rest now. They're going to have basically a week off. Williams has more time. This team is as loaded as anybody right now going forward. Big questions for the Nets, but James, we knew it would be a good series, no doubt. The Celtics I think they've taken that proverbial next step in a big, big way.
Yeah. Well, there's another series that I'm really enjoying at this moment, and it's the Pels versus the Suns. I know the Suns were the favorite at first, but with the injury to Devin Booker, the Pels were able to tie the series up. Now looking at 2-2, and the last game is very convincingly like the Pels can really beat this Suns team. They're not scared. They're going at them. Partner, how do we feel about the series?
Jonas Valanciunas is having an amazing series.
Yeah.
The other night, what did he drop? 24 and 17 or something like that?
Yeah.
Just beast mode. I mean, and it's not like that would be an impressive game if the opponent was soft in the middle. The other team's got DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
Easily one of the best young centers in the league. That significantly helped his team get to the finals last year. So he's just making a young boy out of him. Valanciunas is. It's really just really coming together as a true team, and it takes us back to the idea we always kicked around in the past. Maybe it's time for Zion to get out the door because they clearly don't need him. They're giving by far the best team in the league all they can handle. Now, that being said, certainly it's not helping Phoenix's case. Devin Booker stopped playing. They obviously need him back on the court as soon as possible. Leading the playoffs in made threes per game. So it certainly is helping them a lot that Booker's not there. But even without Booker, Chris Paul is still Chris Paul, and Aiton's still a heck of a big, and Phoenix is a very deep team. So the Cameron boys and Bridges, that's still a lot of talent even without Booker. So a team like the Pelicans, who was 10 games under 500, they should not be tied 2-2 with a 60-win ball club.
I agree. I also feel like with them losing Devin Booker, they lost a player that can create his own shot. Besides CP, there's no one else there that can do that. CP has to set everybody up. On the other spectrum, you got Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum, two probably the best bucket getters the NBA has. And
Ingram's having an incredible playoff.
yeah. And this is his first career playoff, right? And he's going crazy.
Probably.
Think so. I don't know. I don't know who comes out on this one. CP is going to have to go into point guard mode to get them out of this because it doesn't look like Devin Booker's coming back in this series.
And not this CP.
That was
Craig,
good.
what you got on this little surprise run?
I've absolutely loved watching this Pelicans team play so far. No doubt. I mean, I'm the first to admit, same thing. I did not expect the Pelicans to be here, first of all. Yes, they got a break, for instance, like in the playoff game when Paul George was out of the game for COVID reasons. Nonetheless, they are playing fearless. Ingram, just a quick look, he's basically averaging 30 a game in the playoffs, shooting over 50% from 3, from 2. He's had an amazing series. McCollum, I think all of us, including myself, you always kind of wondered what McCollum would look like without Damian Lillard. And he's answered the bell. I mean, McCollum has played basically like a 1A guy. I mean, 1A and 1B with Ingram. But the point is, he has been legit. And the other thing, like you said, Valanciunas, he's averaging, I think it's 16 boards or plus in the series so far. But the young guys are playing completely fearless. Yeah. Herbert Jones reminds me of Inspector Gadget. Did you see some of the blocks he's had?
Yeah.
Legit. He's about 12 feet away, jumping, extending his arm, and he's blocking shots.
Yeah, from 3.
He is
crazy.
Like when you're talking about Marcus Smart got Defensive Player of the Year, you legit could have. He never would have won because he's a rookie. You legit, if you watched them enough, could have given the award to Herbert Jones. He is a menace defensively. I mean, it's a supreme impact. You have Jose Alvarado. Undrafted guard out of Georgia Tech, who has played himself into a guaranteed contract. He is causing complete havoc. He's a nuisance on every level for Chris Paul, for the young legs. They have young legs. And I think I would still be very surprised if Phoenix loses this series. And of course, Booker going out is a factor. But even the game that they beat when Booker went out late, New Orleans had the lead. Like, they were playing well. So I think, do I think New Orleans wins this series? Unfortunately, I think they come up short, but you have to give them a legit chance at this point because they basically don't give a damn. They are getting in the faces. Did you see Herbert Jones last night is down on the ground? Chris Paul goes to pick him up to shake his hand, and Jones shook him off and waited for his own teammate.
Yeah.
It wasn't to disrespect Chris Paul. I love it. These kids, we see so much in the league today, even in the middle of games, it's buddy. It bothers people, including myself. I watched that last night and I'm like, oh, this team is great. They have a shot because they're just like, we don't give a damn. We're going to bring it. So listen, great series, great run. I don't expect them to get through, but their future looks a lot brighter than it did, in recent memory. Yeah, the young kids are really made an immense difference for them. I'm rooting for them hard. I hope they pull it out, but nonetheless, they've already won in my eyes.
Now, partner, you say without Zion they can move on, right? But what if Zion does come back with that team? Are they like title contenders?
I mean, from the talent argument, you would want to say yes, but like we've said it time and time again with the Lakers, like, does the piece fit anymore? Like, what position does Zion play? I mean, they got this young kid that can eat up boards and block shots. Valanciunas is playing like he wants to stay. Like, he wants another contract. Ingram's a front court guy. So, I mean, where's Zion going to play? I mean, is Zion, granted, I know he's super young. He shouldn't have too much of an ego on him. But for a young guy that hasn't played a whole lot, he's probably got as big an ego as anybody because it's Zion. So, like, is he gonna check himself a little bit and put himself in a situation where he come off the bench, like we've seen Steph do with the Warriors lately? Is Zion gonna reset himself mentally enough to be able to do something like that, which might wind up helping him because obviously come off the bench. You're not playing starters minutes. You're not putting as much wear and tear on your body. Might help preserve himself a little bit, but I just don't know if Zion's got the lack of ego necessary to do that. And I just don't know where he's going to fit in, because the other thing is he's not this slasher player, and he's not this 3-point spot up guy. You know, he's kind of like a bruiser in a tweener body. And I just don't know where he would play on this in this roster right now, considering how well they're doing with the players they have.
Yeah.
One thing, let me add something on that, because I forgot to. First of all, I think Willie Green, I forgot to mention him, has done an amazing coaching job there, by the way. I mean,
Absolutely.
Just the level of improvement of some of their guys from start to finish of the year is incredible. Honestly, I would count on him if Zion came back right now. No, I don't think he makes them the title winner, but I think Willie Green would be in full control of this. You know, if Zion came back and gave, call it 15 minutes a game, he can be instant buckets at times. It provides more depth for them. Could he be a difference in a game or two? Like, let's say, for instance, he came back this series.
Mhm.
Could he swing a game to win the series for them? Sure, I think he can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't even think he would be cleared by the doctors to play 38 minutes regardless, right? So, but if you give him a couple of 6-7 minute stretches where he, takes over a game offensively for a few, gives some of their guys a breather, I think he can be a big difference. No, I don't think win the title, but I wouldn't rule out him being a factor.
Speaking of Willie Green, how old does it make you feel when someone you remember playing as a rookie is now a head coach in the league?
It's sick, bro. Very
Makes
sick.
me feel old.
At least he doesn't look old on the sideline.
No, that is for sure. Aging well. Well, we had to flip our little rundown upside down a little bit for the next topic, because we originally were going to talk a little Dallas, Utah, but because we were thinking that the Raptors weren't showing up a whole lot in these playoffs. And sure enough, tonight they came out ready to fight and smack Philadelphia in the teeth. We were all big on the Raptors. I think I was probably the only one that thought Philadelphia would pull it out, but I think everyone else agreed Toronto was a force to be reckoned with and could find a way to pull the upset. But is what we saw tonight from Toronto more of who they are? They could close this series out and bring it back down to the wire, or is Philly, or was this kind of like this is just Philly's spark of the moment, trying to get that energy back from the first few games that they didn't have, and they're just gonna wind up flaming out, and Philly will take control?
I personally, I don't trust Philly at all. I don't trust Philly, even if they get out of this series. Like, I don't think they're getting out they don't get out the next one.
Poor James Harden. Poor James Harden. No one ever has confidence in James Harden.
I don't trust him. And we all know the caliber of coach Nick Nurse is, and I think he's really showing that as well. I think if Scotty Barnes played those couple of games he was out, I think he's still out. But if he played the games that he was out, I think they probably would have been. The series would have been. They would have been up in the series. The only thing they have to worry about really is Joel Embiid, because he's the size in the game. Like, there's nobody on their side of the floor that could like match his size. So he's gonna eat regardless. But they're doing pretty well stopping everybody else.
He's Greg's MVP.
Yeah, I think he gets it. I think he gets it.
James, what you said, first of all, this is another testament to Nick Nurse and the team. They go down 3-0. Most teams in the league would have packed it in. Okay, you get game 4, game 5 comes around. That's usually when the team got theirs. They go out in Philly elimination game and whack them. That was without Fred VanVleet as well.
Wow.
Which, expanding on what James said earlier, worst possible thing that happened for them. game one, literally both of them. Scotty Barnes, who now did come back limited minutes and played a much bigger factor tonight. Scotty Barnes goes out, and so does Gary Trent. They lost two main pieces literally 10 minutes into the series. Again, goes to their resilience. They got guys back. Again, not to bash on Ben Simmons, but I will kind of. Scotty Barnes was nowhere near healthy. Even the other night, I maybe he could play 12 minutes, provided a lift. It kind of symbolic with the team that they are, the teamwork, the cohesiveness. So now that they took game 5, I expect them to win game 6. And I absolutely think they can win game 7 in Philly. They're going to be healthier. They've been all series. And as much as, listen, I think Embiid, no doubt, will bring it. He'll compete. That he now has that torn ligament in his thumb. That's not something minuscule, put it that way. So I think I'm with you. I think Toronto would be the team who would be up 3-2 right now and looking to close it out. But nonetheless, you can't discount this team. And I definitely think they can win the series. I do.
And with Sycam, I mean, he had a big game the other night, but he's been kind of mercurial a little bit based on what we should expect from him.
They're deep though. That's the thing. They got some pieces, but that's even without Van Vliet today. They beat him by 15 in Philly, and the game wasn't that close either. Philly basically, I don't want to say they were never in it, but Toronto was pretty much in command that whole entire game. That's impressive in my book.
That's an impressive win by the Raptors.
Close out in Philly, considering the debacle that happened last year. So Philly didn't come into this game, when they choked at home to Atlanta. That they came in like, we need to end this now. We can't let this happen again. They got whacked.
Yeah.
So kudos to Toronto. Toronto's healthy. They definitely can get it to 7 and win it.
Maybe the Sixers got some demons to shake off and that are, creeping in that are going to take a while for them to shake off, I should say.
Sorry, James, go on.
No, I was going to just say one of Chase's favorite players, Precious, is playing really well in the series.
Precious Achua.
He's playing really well.
What a pickup. What a pickup that was.
I don't think it's just me, guys. One other thing is Harden does not look like all world Harden at all. And being honest, he has a propensity from coming up really small in game 7s, in playoff series. It is what it is. Do we really trust him to turn that? He doesn't look like the same player to me right now.
15 and 7.
Lost a step. Whether it's injury, what type of shape he's in, I'm not really sure, but he doesn't provide to me the same fear that he once did.
No one fears the Beard anymore.
And again, he's had a couple of epic debacles in game 7. So and that does weigh on the minds.
Hey, 15 and 7 ain't gonna get it done.
Nope. And again, that's
50 million.
That's what Van Vliet out. Not that Van Vliet is going to shut him down. I just mean, if they were shorthanded in the backcourt and he still.
Partner, I think there's another unsung lower seed given a top seed a bit of a hard fight in this first round.
Yes. The Minnesota Timberwolves are giving the Memphis Grizzlies everything they can handle. I don't think anybody's seeing this matchup once Minnesota won the play-in and got into the playoffs. Anybody seeing this matchup would have thought hey, these guys are gonna compete. And I don't know, at times they make Memphis look like a young team at times, and they're pretty young themselves. But Memphis they're getting a lot of turnovers. They just don't look like the same team that they look like all regular season. I mean, players are having big games in spurts, especially Desmond Bane for the Grizzlies. But I don't know. Anthony Edwards is really showing out. Cat has sight-ins sometimes. He was on a borderline of me really calling Cat. He's whack. He's not a good player.
He's had a few games that it's just kind of like he's just not there. But
Yeah,
to Minnesota's credit, they compete even when he has a small game.
right. And I don't know. I feel like Memphis is the deeper team. They have. I don't want to say more talent. Well, you can say more talent because they're a very deep team.
I'd
They
say
have more
that.
talent, but it's like it's not. It's not translated. It seems like Minnesota is just playing hard, and their quote unquote best player is not even playing that well in the series, and they're still like in it. You know. This series to me is a head scratcher. I don't understand why why they can't just get these guys up out of here. But this is where we're at 2-2.
Especially with holding Cat down. Greg, what you got?
Yeah.
So, listen, I think the Timberwolves. I think we all knew they had talent. I'm gonna point some of this to that. I think some of it is, listen, Memphis is still as good as they are. They're still a young team. It's still kind of new waters for them. I think the Timberwolves. I still think Memphis will prevail in this series. Basically, the Timberwolves should be up 3-1. They gave up a 26-point lead during that collapse. I hate to do this, but I do question the intelligence of the players on the court and the coaching staff. Finch didn't call a timeout. I don't know if he called a single timeout in that 26-point.
He didn't.
When it gets to 10, 12, you have to realize, if I'm right, I don't think Towns touched the ball less than a handful of times during that whole stretch, if he even had a shot attempt. You go back to one of the playing games, Towns picked up 4 fouls in the first half and his fifth 2 seconds into the fourth quarter. That's unheard of.
Right.
So I honestly believe this. I think Memphis will outcoach and outplay them. The intangibles. The Timberwolves should have never blown that lead that night. As good as Memphis is, it was a ridiculous display of basketball. You can't do that at home, no less. So I think the youth of Memphis, like you said, Bane has played well, and no one individually has been horrible. But I think Memphis will prevail. Minnesota definitely has talent, but they're going to have to. They're going to have to go back to the drawing board from an intelligence standpoint next year, because it's just the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone, when you're sitting at home and you say, how is Towns still in this game in the play-in when he's got 3 fouls? Give them a break until the second half. The same thing during the run against Memphis. It's like 3 different times the timeout's got to come here. It didn't. They paid for it. They gave Memphis life. They took the crowd right out of it. So I expect Memphis to prevail in this. I think the more talented, more cohesive team will prevail.
So many brain farts you just can't give that the benefit of the doubt.
And even, I'll put some of this on Towns as well. I know how good he is, how talented he is. To me, he just seems to come up small and does not play smart a lot of times. He's a good shooter, but often gets too in love with the 3 ball at times. I feel like for them, Edwards has been awesome. They definitely have talent. That's no doubt about it. But I'm not buying the Timberwolves.
Yeah. And Anthony Edwards had an injury scare where he banged
knees.
Like
a hammy, right?
Yeah, he banged knees the game before. And then he came back the previous game and non-contact. He had to get helped off the floor. But then he came back, later in that game and played. So you can tell he's given everything he's got.
Sure.
I really like Anthony Edwards in this series.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, come right back. We will talk about the other series. We don't want to shy too much on everyone else playing the game. We'll give them a little bit of love. We'll go around the other series and touch base on those and how everyone's doing. Don't forget, if you want to keep in touch with the Hoops Boys podcast, follow us on Instagram at Hoops Boys Pod. And as my partner likes to say, let's go pay some bills, and we'll be right back. Hoops Boys podcast. Keep it with us.
Welcome back to the Hoops Boys Pod. We are back. It's playoff time. I got my host with the most, co-host with the most, CProc, and my main boy Greg. And I want to talk about this Dallas and Utah series that is currently going on right now. But the series is currently 2-2, and Dallas was banged up in the beginning of the series. No Luka Doncic, which is like their best player, and Utah couldn't capitalize on these games. And now the series is 2-2, and they're currently getting blown out by 20. So it's looked like it's going to be 3-2 unless something miraculous happens.
When you say the game's currently going on, it's by the slimmest of definitions of the term.
How do we feel about this series? Mark, let's start with you. I mean, Mark.
Mark?
Who's Mark?
Who is Mark?
Mark Eaton?
Mark Eaton. Hey, they could use, maybe Utah could use Mark Eaton. We don't know.
They could use him right now.
Mark Aguirre used to be big for the Mavs.
Hey,
there's a theme here, folks.
theme. Sorry, Greg. Let's start with you. How do we feel about this series? Why can't Utah be good?
I'm going to use a pun on words. Mark it in the books. Dallas is winning this series. You remember when Dallas, first of all, incredible job by them. I mean, Luka missed the first 3 games of the series. It easily could have been 3-0 Utah, and instead Dallas was up 2-1 after 3. Do you remember in past years, and they use them as throwbacks, the Mavericks would wear the green jerseys, which I always liked.
Yeah, I like those jerseys.
Well, Jalen Brunson, even if it's just him, should wear a green jersey because he has made himself a lot of money as a free agent at the end of this year. He's been unbelievable, and I just love it because he's someone I've rooted for since day one, and he's just a better overall basketball player than his physical talent. He's just an excellent player. I mean, he's a quick look here. He's averaging just shy of 30 points a game in the series. And Utah in the past is considered a very good defensive team with Gobert in the paint. But I will say this to that point, and I'm leading into that for a reason. I heard Gobert getting a little bit of heat about the defenses and that. I feel like Gobert has no one else. So basically, Gobert, they're basically trying to take Gobert out of the paint, and the rest of the Utah defense is getting absolutely torched. Yeah. So, number one, Brunson to me, A1, again, he's averaging 30 points a game in this series, just under 50%, over 40 from 3. He's been amazing. Dinwiddie has been an excellent addition. It seems like the team has obviously played a lot better, even without Luka, since they traded Porzingis. And I think, so number one, you have to give credit to Dallas and even Jason Kidd, who's been somewhat maligned as a coach over the years. They've done a great job. And I think for Utah, this is kind of a pivotal moment for them. It seems they've taken a significant step backwards, whereas a couple of years ago, remember they had that epic 7-game series in the bubble against Denver. They came up short, but you looked at it and you said, wow, these two teams are, they're right on the threshold. I feel like Utah is not that same team anymore. They lost Joe Ingles to a torn ACL early in the year, who was a big factor for that team. Stretched the floor, played D. He's since been traded, but that was post ACL injury. So that was a significant loss. But I think in general, this team somewhat may have to be looked at to be reconfigured, because I'm not really sure the Gobert Donovan Mitchell thing is necessarily working as they had hoped at this point. So credit to Dallas, but I think Dallas is definitely winning this series. As weird as it sounds, I don't give Utah a shot. I do not.
To me, I was so high on them going to the year. I thought they were going to be this year's Milwaukee, like finally get over the hump and everything. But I'm so glad I backed off that time and time again, because they just look like the next fire sale team, because it's, for whatever reason, like you said, it's just whatever it is, it's not working. And how many chances does a team get before they have to make not a mistake? They made plenty of mistakes before they have to make a change. I mean, look at Toronto going back a few years. How many times did they get in the playoffs, have a top seed, make a run to the conference finals, blown out? They couldn't get past LeBron. They trade DeMar DeRozan, birthday buddy, who was like cementing his place with like next to Vince Carter as like an all-time franchise great, and they just kicked him out the door. They brought in Kawhi. Next thing you know, here's a championship. So it's like
Yeah.
Utah's getting to that point too, where it's like, all right, how many times are you guys going to be a top team and not do something? So, that being said, I think Greg said, Jason Kidd's been maligned as a coach. I think Jason Kidd's got the short end of the stick a few times because he did a lot of good things in Milwaukee, and I think he got the short stick on the way out the door. I know they didn't get over the hump, and part of that's, whether it's rightfully due to the coach, they always want to be the scapegoat. But I think Jason Kidd's a pretty decent coach over the years, and the fact that Luka missed 3 games and they were still in a position they should have won. They should have won game 4 too, as well, I should say. I think Dallas is really coming to their own and matured a lot in this series over the season, really, but this series in particular.
Yeah, and I love the mind games Jason Kidd is playing with the media, saying that their game plan is to attack Donovan Mitchell because he can't play any defense. And they go to his press conference and they're asking him these questions, and I know that's tough to answer. Like, they're hunting you. Like, how do you feel about that? And he has to do better in the defensive end, and that's not one of his strong suits, but they're definitely going at him. And like the point you made, Greg, like, I didn't realize that they were like purposely bringing Gobert out of the paint so they could just attack everyone else. Besides like Royce, there's no real threats defensively on that team.
No.
So good game plan. Good game plan by Jason Kidd. He's really exposing them.
And I'm not necessarily pointing in any individual factor here. Like, I'm not sure Quinn Snyder survives another year though. And I don't mean like he's been a terrible coach. I just, like I said earlier, you get the feeling this team is going backwards. So whether it's either a managerial shakeup, roster shakeup, both, I kind of get the feeling like they've been a little exposed here this series, because again, they got them without Luka for 3 games. That's couldn't ask for more. Come on, that's even though Dallas surprisingly had a good record without Luka over the course of the year, that's not the playoffs. People play defense differently. Yeah, I think this is a turning point moment for Utah if they do not win this series, and not for the better.
Like, what's the thing we always say? The worst place to be is on the treadmill.
Now, right, they're almost like an 8 seed in the playoffs.
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
Yeah, they've been on that treadmill so long now. They're getting to the end of it, and they haven't hit it up to the 9s.
Yeah. Where other teams have improved, they're going the other way.
Yeah.
Speaking of going the other way, there's a few matchups that are not looking too pretty. 2 of which my 2 favorites in the East, although I'm slowly starting to change my mind and embrace the Celtics a little bit more as the favorite now. But the Bucks and the Heat just taking it to the woodshed against Chicago, Atlanta, and they gave Miami a little bit of a run the other night. They pulled out a win, but Milwaukee quickly put them back in their place. And then Chicago just looks all out of sorts. So we don't have to spend too much time on it because I don't know how much we're really surprised by this. But like, what's the biggest take out of these 2 messes of series? Although that being said, the Bulls and the Hawks did get more wins than the Nets. So I guess they did something right.
Right.
I think that's a subtle jab, James. Just saying. I don't know if you or me or both, but just saying.
Little stab, little twist. It's okay. I would say like in that Atlanta series with Miami, they're kind of like doing the same thing the Celtics are doing to Kevin Durant to Trey. I don't think Trey's seen this level of defensive intensity consistently. You know what I mean? He hasn't seen this all season, maybe since he's been in the league. And they're bringing it to him. These other guys are going to have to do it because you're not going to do it. And And I think that's really messing with Atlanta because, they live and die by the tray.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. And in Milwaukee, I just think the Bulls got banged up towards the end of the season. They're really missing Lonzo. And just the Greek Freak is the best player on the court, and he's showing it. Greg, how you feel?
I think it's just a case here of the two better teams taking care of business. Quickly on the Milwaukee series, losing Middleton was a big blow. They lost game 2 where, and this is, I probably would have guessed Milwaukee in 5. DeRozan in game 2 was absolutely incredible, symbolic of his year. You kind of knew that wasn't he couldn't repeat that performance throughout the series. I just think it's a case of, like you said, Giannis, the better team. Chicago stumbled down the block, injuries, not playing as well, status quo. And what James said as well, I feel the same with Miami. Jimmy Butler's been incredible, by the way. I mean, that first off, he usually doesn't put up the scoring numbers that he usually does, and he's even been doing that. He's been playing like a 1A superstar. And just what you said about Trae Young, a quick look at this. Trae Young is only over this series averaging 16.5 points, which is literally almost half below his season average. Yeah. And astoundingly, he's averaging 6 turners a game, which is the same amount of assists. Miami's D has clamped the heck out of him, and they've outcoached him, they've outplayed him, and again, they're the better team. They're playing like, we all overlooked them, myself included, because I don't think they're winning the title, but they are the 1 seed for a reason. They've been the most consistent team in the East, and they've played like it.
Yeah, and we had a Victor Oladipo sighting as well.
Oh,
series. Yeah.
Forgotten man returns. Hey, maybe defense does win after all.
Like I said, but even the offense, Miami. I mean, they've literally, like, Butler, not having the numbers in front of me. I don't ever recall him averaging 30.5 points in a playoff series.
Mm-hmm.
He's usually in the high teens, low 20s, give you everything else. 30.5. That's not kidding around. And that's shooting 54% from the field as well. So that's not one of these jacking up shots. Oh no, he's put a beating on them.
He's not having a Carmelo type of
No. No, 44 from 3, 54 from the field. Yeah, that's not kidding around.
Not at all.
Their best player has dominated. Atlanta's has not.
Yeah. So, after we spent some time on the series that, basically looked like foregone conclusions, we have another one that's out west with the Warriors and the Nuggets. And the Warriors started off this series pretty banged up. Steph started this series coming off the bench. He's still coming off the bench. And it just seems like they're bullying the Denver Nuggets. Joker, he had a really good game 4 where they basically were trying to zip up the body bag. He put his finger through the zipper and brought it back down. So they still have a fighting chance. But I feel like the Warriors just completely outclass the Nuggets. They have talent everywhere. They have a 3-headed monster now with Jordan Poole kind of turning into a superstar before our eyes. Well, a star before our eyes. I'm not going to go crazy yet and say superstar.
Credit to Shad.
Yeah.
Who also buried Klay Thompson, by the way, and I think he's arisen. Just saying. You're listening, Chad.
So, I mean, the Warriors had a lot of promise in the beginning of the season, looking like, they were the best team in the NBA. And I won't say like they quite reached that level again, but they're looking pretty dangerous. Partner, how do we feel about the series?
Well, I mean, you said the Warriors were banged up going in. Speaking of banged up, I mean, can they be more banged up than Denver? But
true.
Joker's actually having an incredible series. 31 points, just under 12 boards, 5 assists, 55%, almost 90% from the line. So, I mean, the defending MVP, for a few more days or so until we find out who the new one is. He's certainly putting in the work. But he just doesn't have the amount of support. And the Warriors, I mean, at one point they wound up being my backup after I wound up being down on Utah the first time around. And then I kind of backed off a little bit, but I mean, they're looking like they could do it now. I mean, 3-6, they got to go. Well, you know what? It's a 3-6 matchup, and we were just talking about how Memphis maybe looks a little too green around the gills. Maybe Golden State, they kind of take care of Denver next and close the series out, get a few days rest, considering the Memphis Minnesota game looks like it's going at least 6 games. Maybe even 7, who knows? Get a few days rest, and maybe they could catch the winner of that series tired and inexperienced and get back to the Western Conference Final. But yeah, I mean, Steph's just, Greg brought it up a little off air a little bit. He's just turned it up to a level, and he looks kind of like old Steph.
Yeah. And Clay looking like old Clay. Greg, how do we feel about this series?
So, interesting take on this. I am so impressed with Denver. You know why? Because I'm shocked they won a game. Golden State looks incredible right now. Like, the eyeball test. You had that feel watching the series. You're seeing Denver, I mean, play their guts out. They'll have a 5-point lead, where every possession's a grind, everything. And literally it's 8 seconds later, and the Warriors have just hit 3 threes in a row. You can't double any one of them, because Jordan Poole, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, is shooting 60% from the field over the series, 50 from 3. That's after Steph and Klay Thompson.
Right.
You got Draymond playing like a beast. I believe it was game 3, where he got that critical steal at the end of the game off of Jokic, which pretty much summed it up, sealed it. I mean, they are, again, just seeing that level of play right now, they look downright scary. So like I said, I actually give Denver credit, and that's not being condescending. The fact that they got a game, this Golden State team right now is playing as high a level as I've seen them since the title years. They are completely legit. And to your point, I have no problem saying this. Even if Devin Booker gets back, I right now would pick Golden State to go to the finals out of the West, just because they look incredible to me on both ends. We forget they were. I pointed this a number of times. They were one of the best defensive teams in the league this year, and you don't think of that. And again, it's the NBA. I'm not giving them a pass. Teams don't bring it every night. They were banged up. They never had the same lineup. It might have been a blessing in disguise, those guys missing some time, fresher legs. They have that look to me. They look absolutely nasty.
Well, you open up Pandora's box with the crystal ball. So, I mean, let's talk about it. I mean, if they close this one out, they catch a tired, inexperienced, either Memphis or Minnesota. Let's say they blow through them. You do have Phoenix on the other side. You don't know what Booker's deal is, if he's going to come back. If he does come back, what kind of shape he's going to be in. And then, I mean, we just talked, we just spent plenty of time taking a dump on Utah's chest. So Dallas looks like they'll come out of that. Dallas, if Dallas can wipe the floor with Utah like they did, maybe they could give Phoenix a run for their money, especially if Booker's not back. So do we have this like mystical Steph versus Luka matchup for the Western Crown, maybe?
I'd be sick.
I don't want to discount Phoenix, of course. I mean, they did win 60 games. They're a big contributor. Their MVP probably is not playing at the moment, but
yeah, it's tough. I really do like the Warriors. They turned it on at the right moment. I mean, right now they're playing a banged up team in Denver, but like you said, if they run into the Suns, who are also banged up, and even if D-Book comes back, he has to guard Clay and chase him around. That's a lot to do if on a injured hamstring, just coming back after a couple of weeks. And the Golden State Warriors, they execute on both ends of the floor. They're probably like the best team left at it right now in the whole playoff. So,
and I really wish, I've actually thought of this a few times in the last several years. Greg, I really, really, really would like to see, especially this year with all these like potential upsets in play, if they did the hockey thing and reseeded the teams.
Yeah.
Which I know they won't and they'll probably never do, but that
Well,
would be
hockey's
really
changed.
cool.
It's what they
Yeah.
used to, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I get it.
Oh yeah, I don't
Yeah.
pay, I don't pay this new hockey form playoff
I know
format
what,
any.
I know what you speak of and
Just-
understand
The
fully.
new playoff format sucks. Let me just say that.
So when you say reseed the teams, what you mean?
So let's say Minnesota pulls the upset on, let's say Minnesota pulls the upset on Memphis, right?
Yeah.
And let's say Phoenix figures it out and they figure this out. They get by New Orleans. So instead of playing, being that they're the 1 seed, instead of playing the 4-5 slotted automatically, they would play the lowest remaining seed, which of course would be Minnesota.
Instead of bracketed, it's highest versus lowest remaining seed,
Got it. Okay.
which I think is fair because it's a bonus to the, for Phoenix deserved that. They got the 1 seed. They should, in my mind, but
Right.
Yeah.
But you know what? We're talking about this. This injury, obviously, this isn't rocket science saying that the Booker injury is huge, but to assume, let's forecast down the road another series or two. They get. I'm gonna pick Golden State, but even if it wasn't them, this series now is going longer for Phoenix than it definitely would have if he was there, assuming they get out, even
Absolutely.
if they do. The other factor on this is Chris Paul has, he's had a hard time. He's older. He's had a hard time staying healthy. Not only physically now is he carrying more of the load, it's more of a mental burden as well. I mean, without Booker, he's got a lot more on his shoulders. So, especially for him, the rest of the team is very young, but those heavy minutes on him and the extra reliance they're going to have. I mean, he's been hurt in many playoff series over the year, and you start to wonder. You're watching Alvarado, press him from when he takes the ball at the court. That takes a toll over a game, over a series, over a month. Everyone's playing defense. So I really do on many levels. I hate to bail on them because they've been awesome, but I really have to question now whether Phoenix gets through this now. Because again, no matter who they get in the second round, and I'm not writing them off, please, I don't mean to do that, but we can't pretend like this is the same team without Devin Booker. It's just not.
Yeah.
The Pelicans legit. Do I think they'll win? No. We actually could make a rational case for New Orleans upsetting them. So timing is everything, and that's where for me, I at this point I'm taking Golden State because even if Booker gets back, yes, he's young, recover quicker. That's a bad injury.
Yeah.
So I think Golden. I really just think Golden State got healthy at the right time, and just looking quickly, I mean, Steph is averaging 27.5 per game in 28 minutes. Clay 25. Clay shooting 50% from 3, 53 from the field. Poole 60. I mean, you look at these numbers. Andrew Wiggins shooting over 50 from 3, 54.8 from the field. Draymond shooting 59%. I granted we know Denver's
missing.
not. We know Denver is not, but that's on top of Golden State playing defense as well. So to me, Golden State right now, that's who I have. I have them. However, the rest turns out, whether Booker's back or not, I'm going Golden State.
You heard it here first. Golden State is coming out the West, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, before we wrap up, I just want to point out we may have been a year late, but we were finally right on Marcus Smart winning Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Marcus Smart for winning Defensive Player of the Year. Well deserved. About time.
Shout out to the 2021 Hoops Boys podcast. A little late, but we got it right.
Right. Speaking of the future, my crystal ball says this is the end of the show. But it's been a ball, a blast talking with you guys about the playoffs, and there's more to come. Second rounds that are upon us. Big shout out to our guest expert, Greg. You already know how we feel about you, bro. Thanks for everything. And my beautiful co-host, CProc. But if you want to, make some picks or challenge us on what we think, hit us up on our socials at Hoops Boys Pod on both Instagram and Twitter. let's chop it up. But until then, Sports Pod. Peace.
Kobe.